And welcome back once again to the PCS Spring Split 2022. One game down, and we got four more to go here. I'm still Pyra, he's still Clement. Nothing has changed at all. And our sponsors, of course, are still the same. They are CTBC Bank and, of course, Caliber. Thank you for making PCS possible. Now, Clement, we have got a bounce-back game here for CTBC Flying Oyster against Hurricane Gaming, who went 1-3 on the last week, and they had a couple of struggles against, admittedly, the top teams in the league.
I don't think anyone would have guessed CFO if the question was who is the second worst team in the second round. It's just absolutely amazing the losing streak that they've been on, and we do want to kind of showcase some of the commonalities between all of these losses. I think both you and Nightstar have kind of seen this. It does stem a lot of the times from the drafting phase. All three of these losses have been on the red side for CFO, and in one game against J-Team, they just gave over the enemy a lot of strong picks. They gave Uniboy his Zoe, gave the Lee Sin over to Kongra as well. And the other side has been the AD carry picks. We have seen them try to triple ban Unified, but still lose the matchup Jinx versus Xayah in the bot lane. And in the other game, they went for the Jinx and still lost again to the Xayah. So if I'm looking at this situation, I think one of the things that they're trying to remedy is trying to bring a new player in, Shun, get him some experience against a lesser opponent in Hurricane Gaming, and also see if they can find someone who is a little bit more adept at Jinx. If we look at the champion pool, Jinx really hasn't been kind of Atlan's go-to. We know he's pretty solid on the Aphelios, but Jinx for him is still a bit iffy.
I think that's fair. And, we talked about how Atlan had kind of impressed beyond expectations because we kind of expected him to be the weak link in the team. And up until recently, he wasn't. Maybe that is a good time to bring in their substitute. Shun, not a lot of experience on stage, but maybe this is another diamond in the rough. We've certainly no shortage of them here in the PCS. However, I do want to not shut the door on Hurricane Gaming at all here, because I think one of their best players is in the bot lane. That is Bang 2. Who has been putting his carry pants on at least a number of occasions. ICU, pointing to himself, of course, there on the roster lineup, is the other powerful player. But I think CFO can't take this as a win for granted, right? I mean, based on what we saw from even some of their more experienced players, I mean, I'll be honest, Gemini's Hecarim made him look a little bit more like Olio in that last game against J-Team. And Olio had one of his better performances against Sem9 last week. So Hurricane definitely have the tools for success. This is obviously a massive challenge for them to try and overcome, but we have seen stranger things happen.
I have to agree with you on that one. We saw one of the best games from Hurricane Gaming. Alio getting a 9-kill game on the Graves, ICU trouncing over his opponents, and then a great performance on the Jinx by Bang 2. So they definitely have individual bright spots, but again, we do have to kind of benchmark their performance against their opponent. Both of their wins have came from Sem9, and again, their good performances have came from beating Sem9 last week as well. So it's going to be much tougher for them this time around, but we have seen sort of cracks in CFO and ways to exploit that. Number one is they don't really play very cohesive compositions. From what we can tell, Rest kind of does his own thing. they have had some very weird picks from Rest that don't really jive with the rest of the composition. I think last week both the Jace and the Graves were a little bit suspect going up against the Gwen, and even the Malphite. I feel like at this level of play, it just doesn't cut it a lot of times. So we've seen so many players just be able to flash away from Malphite ult, no problem whatsoever, and continue the counter offensive. So I think if ICU can get a good performance, a strong team fighting performance, then you could kind of give rope for Rest to kind of do whatever he needs to himself.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Now, we are going to compare the junglers, so maybe there's a little something behind that comparison. Obviously, Gemini, much more experienced in this role in particular, and we've seen so much more out of him, but definitely had a bit of a rough go of things last week. Now, Olio, keep in mind, this is a player that's role swapped. He used to be Xiaotu in the mid lane for the old Alpha Esports before they had the rebrand, and we have seen some successful performance, but we've also seen a lot of really shaky play, and I think he's tried a number of champions that have not necessarily worked out well for him. I haven't been a huge fan of his Hecarim, but I liked what I saw out of the Graves last week up against, admittedly, the likes of Sem9. I think he may have found a groove on some of these more unorthodox picks. We'll see what he brings out today, because he's got a tough test ahead of him.
Generally, Alial sees himself as the carry of the team. He's always building damage on whatever he goes for. So it makes the team identity, I feel like, very brittle. If they don't come out ahead early game, there's very little chance for them to actually snowball to the finish line. And I think CFO know that. Just look at their bans right here. They're banning like Diana and Karthus, both very strong carry picks from Alio and very late game oriented picks. So I think CFO have a very clear identity on how to deal with Hurricane gaming.
That's amazing. It's like Kongye Light, except he just has like the weirdest champions. All right. I'm excited to see how the rest of this big ban phase goes, because I'm already surprised. And here's an issue. When you ban out the Zeri you're forced into, the Syndra that you're forced into because it's mission, and then the Tryndamere, Rest gets a chance to play Gwen, which she has 100% win rate on. On the flip side, Bang 2 will get to grab the Jinx, but keep in mind, like you said, you know, this is a game without Atlan, and his Jinx has already been a little iffy. Maybe Shun's got something different up his sleeve. We'll have to find out. So, yeah, I think for CFO, they've got lots of options still.
So far, the Xayah versus Jinx matchup has been doing absolutely okay in the PCS. We have seen Xayah's being able to shove in, and in team fights, it's still very difficult for Jinx to completely walk up. You do have to play more of a defensive team fight. And just use range to your advantage against the Xayah. So that could still be in the cards for sure, or you could just go for the Aphelios, as we have seen so many times before. But Hurricane Gaming, I think right now, without Diana and Karthus, they're pretty much forced into an early game snowball reset team composition. I just feel like we're going to see a Viego come out for Hurricane Gaming and then just rolling the dice to see if Oyo can find a kill early.
You might as well try. I mean, it's tough. You're up against a very, very strong squad who have every reason to try and flex on you because they've just had a really rough week. Looking to take out their frustrations possibly. Gemini will be on the Lee Sin. Wouldn't be surprised to see the Xayah coming in here for Shun. I think they're confident enough that even if there is a Rakan ban, they should be okay in the 2v2. So they go ahead and opt for the lock-in of the Xayah. That has had a good time so far. I'm glad to see the AD carry matchup getting shaken up a little bit, because as much as it's fun to see a Jinx pop off, man, Aphelios is annoying to watch. I'm just going to say it. He's annoying.
Yeah, he's very hard to keep track of. To keep in mind whatever he can do, you really have to keep track of what gun rotations he has. Suddenly he can just kind of set siege if he has his green and white guns, or if he has his blue and red guns, he's going for team fights. Red, white going for objectives. Like it's kind of a hassle to predict what's going to happen with him.
He's too big brain of a champion for me, man. I'm old school when it comes to my AD carries. Like I can deal with Jinx. You have a swap between launcher and a minigun. That's okay. But yeah, Aphelios is too much game design for my taste.
Really, I think if they just let go and let the champion designer go with like the rotation of the moon changes your guns, like that would have probably ended League of Legends. That would have been a step too far. It was just like, okay,
we would have fallen off the edge of the map. Here there'd be dragons for sure. But back to the picks and bans, we do see that Rakan ban. We do see LeBlanc actually banned out up against the likes of Mission, which is an interesting one. I almost feel like the Orianna, just because Mission's so ridiculous good on that champion, might have been a little bit more merited. But the Graves, the Xin Zhao, 2 more bans thrown at Olio. Of course, Graves being one of the champions he has a win on. And we saw Cha-Cha hover the Rise before, so I wouldn't be surprised if he goes it, but maybe this is why. They wanted to take the Ori for themselves. It's an interesting combination because it's kind of an anti-synergy with the Gragas, but it does pair well with the Nautilus.
This is smart. If you're playing against Xayah in the Jinx matchup, you have to play with range advantage. You have to play far back and just make sure that you're not running into Xayah. Xayah just, with the blade color, can counter rush compositions very well. So I like what Hurricane Gaming are doing. They're actually setting up for a standard team fight comp. And this is what you have to do if you're kind of on the bottom level of the team. You can play with your, Hail Mary early game compositions, but you have to eat your potatoes and salad at the same time. You can't just be surviving on Tootsie Rolls the entire split. So
you're right. I like this though too. They've thrown down the gauntlet and said, all right, Olio, you get an engaged champion. Your job is to start some fights for us right now. And I think the Volibear could work really well with this comp.
Wait until he still builds Divine Thunder.
Oh no, he will. It's Olio, right? But I think that at least the champion is going to change a few things. I don't know. Sure. Anything's on the table when you're talking about Hurricane. They've got to find wins because this is one of the teams that is in danger of not making it into the playoffs. The old Alpha Esports squad, they had a lot of struggles too, and I think this team needs to show us something a little bit different. But there are glimmers of that hope, Clement. There's always the possibility here, but CFO, make no mistake, are the heavy favorites.
For sure. Hurricane Gaming, they are really chasing after, Impunity, currently sitting at 4 wins. So 2 more wins would put them in contention here. Impunity aren't looking so hot themselves. It's definitely a possibility. We have seen Liab overtake into the standings last split. That was such a heroic run. I still love their...
Oh,
I still miss you so much, Liab.
I miss Liab too, man. They had to go and leave us. But
But
either way, we have seen at the bottom of the table a lot of scraps. We talked about how it's a top 8. Way more teams get into the playoffs than don't. You really don't want to be on the outside looking into that because anything can happen when you get into those best ofs for sure. But this is a composition. I like what I'm seeing here from Hurricane. The question always has to be, though, can they execute?
if there is ever a draft that CFO would falter at, I feel like it's this draft. This draft combines all of the weak elements that CFO have displayed in the past. Rest going completely side lane, mission on the utility champion, and an AD carry that, we don't really know what to expect from. So I think all of the ingredients are actually there, and this composition is not easy to execute. There isn't a very secure way to have mission land on someone. Usually you're thinking about Jarvan or Camille because their ultimates can actually keep the opponent in place, but that's not the case with Lee Sin, who is the only gap closing champion right here. So if Hurricane Gaming, in terms of composition, if you just cover the IDs and you forget about what these two teams have been doing this entire split, actually give Hurricane Gaming's composition a fair advantage here.
Yeah, I think that's a lot to say, and I think it's absolutely true here. Both Rest and Gemini do actually get spotted roaming deep into this jungle from the ward that Hurricane had placed out here. The question is, are they going to do anything about it? ICU is actually just going to let him walk up. Should just go for little love taps. No, we've got to pause. Oh no, the suspense, it's killing me, Clement.
It does give us a little bit more time to talk about the setup from both teams right here. We did see the Volibear go back just to switch his ward. It's a very common tactic. I feel like that was spotted out by CFO, and that's why Rest is willing to go so deep into the invade, because he does kind of sense that the enemy jungler is just not there. Another thing we can point out is that this is a Predator Galio. This is going to be your go fast level 3 Galio that is starting with boots as well. So we have seen actually Mission play this, and it did not look very good. It was actually terrible. He was
he's
24/7 dying.
It actually makes me wonder why they didn't opt into like a Sivir instead of the Xayah. I think that would have fit this comp a little better.
You mean just like kind of a run fast composition?
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I feel like Sivir is just a worse Sari, like a very, very much worse Sari.
I mean, she is, but she at least buffs your team, right?
It's true.
You're not wrong about that assessment. And maybe they just want to give Shun some stage experience. I think there's a lot of questions about what CFO are doing right now. But regardless, the fact remains they are still heavy favorites, but there is an opportunity. So as we get back into the game, we see no harm was done to Rest in the making of this top lane. Meanwhile, in the bot, let's see how well Bang 2 and Enhao can do against this new AD carry. Koala taking a lot of poke to start things off, actually. That's a good start for the Hurricane bot side.
And both of them going Glacial Augment into the bot side, so it basically favors whoever is going to gank that lane first. We have both junglers heading towards the bot side at the same time. Do expect a lot of just flares, sparks to start flying in that bottom lane. Meanwhile, in the top lane, this has been a sort of interesting matchup. Gragas can actually be very impactful. Ooh, wait a minute.
Okay, I'm liking Enhao's aggression. This is fun to watch.
Definitely is. Gragas, I feel like can be very impactful against Gwen's in team fights. If you can completely reset her positioning and she doesn't find any snips, you basically means that she only gets one charge of ultimate. So that's something that we can pay attention to. I feel like Gragas will be the great equalizer in this fight. Again, CFO are the ones that are trying to play aggressive. They're going to try to charge down Hurricane Gaming's composition. An explosive cask could put a stop to that.
That's true. We have seen ICU on Gragas duty before. He certainly knows the carry matchups, and he, in theory, knows how to do the counter carry matchups. However, that's going to be the Flash Zenith Blade as they manage to catch Enhao. Bang 2 flashes away to safety. That will still be first blood on a mission roam.
That was weird from Hurricane Gaming because they had all of the signs that this was going to happen. They had a ward in the river. They had the pings coming down from Cha-Cha. But for some reason, Hurricane Gaming still stayed, and that's just a easy pickup for mission. I'm very surprised that they didn't react to that whatsoever.
We've talked about comms issues before. You know, one of the issues this team has is they have two players playing from a different location, and maybe some lag, but they've opted into it. So you have to wonder.
Yeah, it was such a weird chain of events because they had the jungler in the bottom side too, so it was possible that they would have gotten some help from Alio if they could just stall that play for a while longer. It was just way too free for Mission, and that's not what you want to see. And Mission right now roaming the map with Ionian boots too, so that's just going to happen a lot more often. And doesn't look like Hurricane Gaming are really equipped to handle these early mid lane roams.
No, Oleo comes through, tries to issue a stern warning to Mission about that, but he is in no shape to actually try and take him out. So unfortunately,
he is a constable bear.
Yeah, he needs a backup. He needs a backup before he can go for the arrest. A little bit of wee-woo on the chickens.
So right now, I feel like CFO have so many opportunities to just reset that play over and over again. Mission will naturally have wave push against Cha-Cha, at least until he can get, I believe, level 7 in the blue buff. So he's in a very strong position in this lane. Could impact the top lane and the bot lane.
Again.
You have a trade.
Hex Flash out of the bush, bang 2, trying to walk away, but he's gonna have Enhao give him his life for that. Shun in his debut for CFO looking pretty good with a little help from his teammates.
Beautiful stuff from Koala. I love the positioning of the Flame Choppers. Just making sure the AD carry can't stay in position either. And they also force out the cleanse in that trade. So very nicely done here. Already a 2-0 lead. And I feel like we might be seeing even more Xayahs. So far, the Xayah versus Jinx matchup, you know, Xayah does have a lot more ability to kind of trade through the minion waves. Zap and Flame Chompers are... They're not really abilities when you're on the back foot. So it does seem like this Xayah matchup is starting to be the downfall of a lot of Jinx players.
Are we starting to see the bot lane meta evolve over the season? Yeah, like it's not going to be as much of like a hyper carry reset oriented champion, but it kind of does really well into champions like this Jinx. I mean, there's so many tools that you can use to out trade. Not to mention, you know, the fact that you're always going for this lethality build as well. Or at least so far we've seen much more of this lethality build. I think it shakes up expectations a bit from the hyper carry meta. Now Koala, the absolute madman, is going to Hex Flash the wall. He knows he was in no danger, though. Probably gave Enhao a heart attack.
This is the problem when you're running double Glacial in the bot lane. It's basically a gank fest. Whoever gets there first, it's so easy to just find kills on the lane. You get the extra slowdown, and usually these Glacial Augment slows are going to be a two-man slows. So we'll see if Alio can find something here.
Ooh, hook misses. I feel like that gives the game away a little bit, but we'll have to see. Control ward down, so if Koala were to place one in there, and he's going to go forward on the Hex Flash and steps right in to Oleo, and he says, wait, that's illegal, but they don't care, because Oleo takes way too much damage on the back foot of it. And now Gemini and Mission coming to the rescue. Oleo looking to get away, Flash wins a war, and he claims his prize. Mission's just such a speedy boy.
Again, it just seems like Hurricane Gaming are not on the same page. Once the engage went down, Alio was just kind of stuck there, and you can see Bangtooth did not want to go in. He wanted no piece of that action. He knew what was coming. It's like, Galio is missing, and they're willingly engaging after knowing that our jungler is here. Something is up.
Yeah, I feel like that doesn't take a detective to solve all of that. So, big lead for CFO. The mid lane gets involved. The jungler gets involved. Mission pretty much just everywhere on the map with this incredible speedy Galio presence. This does actually present a small timing window, unless Gemini steals it right back, for Olio to claim the first dragon here. So that would be a silver lining for Hurricane, but they don't have the damage to do it. I think the game is up here unless they want to fight for it. A smite fight feels risky right now. Orianna Ball thrown out. Cha-Cha has access to the ultimate. If they can do it, the fight is on. That's going to be taken away by Gemini. Shockwave pulls in 3, but they don't have enough follow-up damage. He's so low. Excuse me, as Cha-Cha got the big playoff, it just wasn't enough. Double kill goes the way of Xayah, and they finish up Cha-Cha on the back half. So Dragon taken, traded, 3, 4, 1 kills. Everything's coming up, CFO.
Positionally, I don't even think that was that bad for Hurricane Gaming. The problem was just their bot lane was so far behind. If you look at Bang 2, he's walking into this trade with less than 200 HP. We are going to get some Oscar-worthy performance here. On the minimap, you could see the pings going down, so CFO definitely knew that Aliel was there. There was no way that Enhao was going to try that without jungler presence. And just look at this. Enhao throws down the all the abilities, and Bang 2 runs for the hills. He's like, this is not hard fight. I'm getting away from this one. Mission gets an easy flash-in kill right there, and the snowball just kind of continues. One thing I love about the Xayah pick is just how different her power spikes are from traditional crit carries. She does have a lot cheaper items, as the Eclipse is essentially an assassin item. So you get that at 3,100 gold, and then you also build into the Mirror Mana, which is another cheap item. So she's very combat effective, far before the third item in Infinity Edge that we've seen from a lot of carries.
Yeah, it's nice to see CFO taking advantage of that fact and opening up very early on the 9-minute Mythic. Olio going to come up to the top side. He's been a very sad bear so far. Maybe he can try and get an answer back onto Rest, of course, who only has Ignite as his combat, but Rest is just going to straight up walk away from it. So Hurricane having a hard time, struggling to find anything on the map, and Olio steps right into a 2v1. Calls for backup, and that's just going to be the barrel. Tossed out for insurance.
Probably just a little bit too much backup. I feel like ICU, that was probably the most half-hearted barrel attempt. He was probably thinking that Gemini... if you knew Gemini didn't have flash, I don't think you need that barrel there. That's kind of weird.
It's a low enough cooldown, but yeah, it just shows the lack of coordination this team still suffers from.
Yeah, I mean, that was really weird because Alio was unstoppable with ult, so it just seemed kind of unnecessary there, and now he's going to have a hard time against Rust here.
Yeah, he might be able to walk away. No, he has no flash. He's already used it. Oh, he could be in some trouble. Mission maybe looks to come up there. They're going to let him get away, but one thing we haven't talked about with all of the bot lane shenaniganery is how the top lane, Rust has just been amassing a significant gold and CS advantage against his opposite number here. So ICU on Groggestude, he's going to have a really hard time getting back into this. Bang 2 already down to half health down bottom, by the way. They're going to try to bait a fight out. But this is happening in the open. That's going to be the depth charge, and Shun easily flashes to safety. Olio gets caught without being able to do a damn thing about it, and now it's Bang 2 and Enhao running for the hills as Mission looks to charge in. And up top in the picture-in-picture, we see Rest get his dirty farm on. Oh boy. Flashes of last game here, Clement.
Yeah, absolutely painful stuff on the map. That's why I was harping about the explosive cask. If he still had it, he could still reset the top wave and get a clean TP back to his own lane. But right now, in that time, we actually saw another 2 waves of advantage just going over to Rest, and now he's taking away the entire topside jungle. So, just haphazard ultimates do cost you a lot in the long run. Meanwhile, on the bot side, I'm not sure what the plan was right there, but I just don't see that working. Not against the Xayah with flash and ultimate. It seemed... I don't know, it just seemed like they were chancing that Shun maybe wouldn't press his ult in time, but that just seems like such a wild bet, even against a rookie player.
Yeah, it's a little bit sus, as they like to say. I'm not really sure what Hurricane were hoping to accomplish, and maybe it's just a little bit of early desperation already coming out here. But yeah, Bang 2 going to go ahead and complete the boot, still waiting on his mythic, of course, 12 minutes in. Would hope to have had it by now, but hasn't really been able to do much. Credit to him, though, for not dying. I do think he's been able to hang in there, but Enhao has bought him a few extra lives at this point. And Hurricane, remember, this is a team fight that wants to get out and fight, but they're going to end out of this laning phase in such a deficit if they don't course correct quickly. And unfortunately, we kind of see Olio continue to have struggles in his new role as ICU, speaking of struggles, forced to dash away. And we've got ourselves a bit of a dive down bot. 4v3. Teleport to try and even the odds. Bang 2 going to look to push them back here. And with the teleport spent, they might be able to get out of harm's way, but I think they're losing their tower. They've already lost the one up top, as Rest is going to cut that down to size.
Just beautiful map movement from CFO. They didn't over-aggress on the play, and they just forced everyone to the right side of the map, which you can tell gives a very clean opening here for Mission to at least take down another plate here. Meanwhile, on the bottom side, they're still forced away from their tower. So CFO basically take away multiple objectives without initiating combat. That's always a hallmark of a good team, is that they can get things done without getting things bloody.
And we have seen this team find a lot of success when they haven't been forced into fights off their own terms. Rest does step a little too far forward, though. But backups are coming, and that's going to force the defensive Stormbringer from Olio. As on the opposite side of the map, they also managed to take out Dragon number 2. We are going to get a Cloud Rift this time around, and map control firmly established for CFO. Ooh, Gemini. Oh, Gemini. Oh, Gemini, getting his style on. With the flank, finds Bang2, and he made it look just so easy.
Yeah, Bang2 doesn't even bother to flash in that instance. He's just like, well, I guess I'm dead.
Koala just says, hey Gemini, hold my beer, but not even needed. Flash away, Cha-Cha, that's going to be a little more damage on, as the Shockwave whiffs on the Justice Punch. That could have been an opportunity for Cha-Cha to find an answer. He burns everything to not die in that engagement.
So, as we said in the drafting phase, Hurricane Gaming, they do have a late game out in this team fight. I still feel like they have a superior composition in my eyes when it goes really, really late. But it will require them to actually set up formations correctly. They need to be on the objectives first. They need to know where the enemy is coming and deny them with the explosive cask and the shockwave potential. However, in this situation where they don't have any map control, it also means it's very hard for them to actually get back. The only realistic way I could see Hurricane Gaming finding anything is through ICU.
Yep, and Hal going to get caught out here, and this is looking like another quick pick as Gemini tag teams up with Koala to make it happen. And this is the struggle, is that Hurricane, I don't think they realize how fast they've fallen behind, how far they've fallen behind. It's such a massive goal deficit that has translated into items at this point. Going to try to hold the line in mid here, but look at Koala and Gemini. They just own every piece of this jungle. Meanwhile, Rest and ICU going to duel, but there's a level advantage and an item advantage to play with, and ICU burns everything. Gemini comes in for some relief hitting, and he's just making it look so easy on the sides.
Smooth as butter as Gemini collects another kill right there. Doesn't even leave it for his top laner. He knows that Rest is fed enough at this point, so just going to take that one away. But that was a good demonstration of what potentially ICU could do to get Hurricane Gaming back into the game. If CFO do decide to siege, which I don't really recommend at this point, you're just too far ahead. But if they do, then ICU could potentially find a chance to flash engage onto Shun, knock him back. He's the most fed member on the team, and then snowball the team from that point. I don't think Hurricane Gaming have a lot of moves going into the river or just going into their own jungle.
Right.
Their only realistic move is probably to catch CFO when they're grouped together when they're sieging.
One of the issues, though, is Shun always has a get-out-of-jail-free card, right? As soon as he pops the Featherstorm, you've got to burn that before you can actually force the real engage.
And that's why you flash E. That's why you flash E.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong about that. So, Hurricane, they're going to try to stem the bleeding here, but this is getting so hard right now with 5 towers knocked down, completely unanswered. It's going to be probably more here as the Rift Herald is completely free real estate. Bang2 at least does have access to his Kraken Slayer has for a few minutes. We are seeing the Mythic start to be completed. ICU still hasn't managed to grab it as he's fallen so far behind in the CS game. And, you know, it's not even that he's playing bad, but unfortunately, I just feel like when he's on tank duty, it almost kind of wastes a bit of his potential. I get what he's trying to do for the team, but I just love to see this guy have the carries to get back into it. Now it's going to be, again, another defensive Stormbringer. Olio out of harm's way, but for how long? Not very, as Shun takes him down on the side. Shockwave goes in, does not do enough here, as Mission is just too tanky. And just like that, Hurricane Gaming lose 3 quickly.
Kind of slow reactions coming in from Hurricane Gaming. Olio got tagged, but he didn't move initially, and that was a 5v4 in favor of Hurricane Gaming. They can't find any damage or any focus fire to get any kills. Oh, this is what he needs to do.
Yeah, but unfortunately, Gemini tag team in there, and Mission still stays alive. Meanwhile, the dive into the base onto Cha-Cha. Rest is an absolute madman, and he's just tanking tower shots as he pleases. Finishes off the inhibitor. Shelly even gets another charge down the mid lane. And Hurricane, I mean, yeah, they got late game Clement, but at this point, we might not get past the surrender vote threshold.
It's definitely true here, and if we look at the Drakes, it will be a Cloud Drake, so that's actually kind of nice for Hurricane Gaming. If you're at this point in the game, you see a Clown Soul, you're like, that's probably the best I could do here. Alio trying to get something going, though, but he has no support.
Teleport from Mission? Okay.
He gets away with that?
I mean, yeah, he shouldn't be allowed to, but he is. And he did it in front of a cop, too. So disrespectful.
Yeah, that's just kind of odd. Maybe he was very polite to the police officer, but
he respects no authority.
That is
Mission,
front.
Isn't it?
That was a complete front from CFO. If you look at the map, there was only 2 members there, and Hurricane Gaming didn't even bother trying to kill him. I feel like that's just Hurricane Gaming being deflated.
He's so fed too. I mean, like look at his item count tanky, comparatively. Like, yeah,
they could have definitely killed him though.
Oh, they could have, but they're scared, and rightly so. Oh boy. So, Cloud Dragon secured. I don't know if Soul's going to come into play here the way this game is going, but Hurricane have to hope that they can turtle it out for a little while. Only found the 1 kill so far this game, and that on to Cha-Cha. There is always the Shockwave threat. That is always a possibility if CFO get a little bit too hyphy and push their advantage too far. Koala should stepping up to take out this inhibitor. And I don't think they're going to be able to stop this take here. Well, maybe. Nope, that's going to be the engage, and into the hero's entrance. Combo on, Enhao goes into stasis, but the rest of the team scrambling. For a little bit of relief here, that's going to be the defensive flash from Enhao. And now Rest on the front line. ICU pops the barrel back. They might find the Gwen. Big shutdown. Is it a chance for them to get back into this one? CFO have decided to pull the 180 as they do lose 1. That's going to be the end of that.
All right. Rest definitely needs to get punished here. There is no reason, and I don't think I've ever seen this, but there's no reason Rest should be building a Seraph's Embrace in this game.
Wait. Oh, my. You got it. Oh, wow.
He's just too far ahead. He's like, I better use this game to test out some items. Cosmic Drive is a much better item. Nashor's is a much better item. Yeah. This is just
By the way,
I think.
You want to talk about some items that you don't get to see too often. The Seralita's Grudge picked up now for Shun.
That one I think is fine since you're going for a lethality build anyway.
Yeah, it makes more sense. It makes more sense. I just don't get to see it all that often. So, pretty big statement from CFO's substitute bot laner, and admittedly it's hard to tell efficacy when you're up against one of the weaker teams in the league, but a good showing to kick things off, and maybe we start to see more of this player in exchange for Atlan. I'm curious.
Very good laning sense right there. I think his ability to combo up with the gank pieces coming his way was definitely what snowballed their early game. But now, can Hurricane survive this?
Rest is just so aggro right now, and I mean, he might go down, but no, Gwen is immune. Shockwave flashed away from, and they're losing health bars. Big aggressive Featherstorm to pick up the triple kill. Can he pull the Quadra? Gemini serves it up on a silver platter and steals it away at the last minute. That is going to be GG. Still not a record setter, but oh boy, CFO get a massive bounce back after a disappointing week 4 to clean this game up, only giving 2 kills over, nearly a perfect victory.
Gemini welcomes over ICU to the bounce house. They take him down in fashionable ways. A lot of different insect kicks coming in from Gemini and a lot of experimentation coming in from Rest. That has been probably the most tilting engage and that I've seen this entire game. You see Rest just testing with items and going in willy-nilly. And Hurricane Gaming, I feel like they were a little bit angry at that point. Threw everything at him. He manages to survive even without a flash and just walks away.
And Stone Cold Killer on the new bot laner. Shun, just no expression at all. He's going to give Unified a run for his money.
Yeah, I like the Gumshoe as well. The Gumshoe is a really interesting thing that we actually have seen a lot of coaches talk about that. It allows like rookie players to relieve a lot of stress. So whenever we go to Worlds, they usually ask if like, okay, can you chew gum? Because sometimes, some broadcasters don't like it. They think it's they think it doesn't look really that good on camera. But I think for newer players, whenever you see that, you can see that, okay, they're channeling, they're keeping their emotions in check, and they're just giving a great performance.
hey, whatever you can do to settle the nerves, right? And I think Shun looked very good in his debut here on the PCS. We've talked at length about so many newer players coming into the league, and many of them having a very big impact, especially because the playing field was a little leveled. We had so many teams, so many players depart, so it was hard to tell who would be stepping up and really delivering. And in a very impactful role, the substitute bot laner for CFO has shown off in his first game. Now, I still think we'll see a lot more of Atlan, but who knows? Maybe this is a new era for CTBC Flying Oyster as they etch another one on the board and made it look incredibly effortless. I think Rest and Mission maybe a little bit of BM there, maybe a little bit of disrespect, but they didn't get punished too hard for it. And Rest is the BM king, to be fair. Remembering back to last year where his favorite thing to do, I think, was spam emotes.
Yeah, he's keeping the emote spam in check this year, and he's doing a lot less tower diving, fountain diving, excuse me. Tower diving is still a very normal tactic here. But what I wanted to say about CFO in this game is I was actually not very impressed with this draft. I feel like they didn't really map out what they wanted to do after the Xayah pick was countered out. The traditional counter to Xayah is always range. That's why you see a lot of Ezreal and Kog'Maw comps being thrown into Xayah's way, and that's exactly how Hurricane Gaming drafted their composition. It was just stay back and just punish the Xayah for not being able to use Blade Caller, which is the majority of her damage. So I actually feel like Hurricane Gaming did outdraft. They only succumbed because their laning phase and their communication was completely off course. I don't know what they were doing in that bot lane. The pings were there, the jungler was there, and they just still died. So for me, this game is, CFO dominating just through their pure ability, but that's not what we need from CFO right now. Just to mention, on 12.4, their leads in lane have only been plus 500 gold, which doesn't sound too bad on paper, but is very bad for CFO standards. And I still think we need to see a little bit more out of them compositionally wise. If they wanted to run a hard engage with the Xayah, they probably needed a little bit better coming out from, I would say, the last two picks to make this composition fully work.
I feel like this was a mental reset game, right? Because after last week, I think they were struggling, and getting back with a fun victory on the board, even if it didn't look the cleanest at times. The new AD carry earns the MVP on Xayah. How about that? Welcome to the PCS. And he did make it look pretty good. I do have to respect, it was very far ahead, but the aggro Flash Featherstorm to pick up a triple kill was beautiful. Not many rookies can do that right out the gate. And happy to see it from Shun.
He also won the 2v2 hands down. Very smooth game plan from him, and it does look like they have synergy already inbuilt with Koala. So I think Shun have most likely been practicing with Atlan all along. And
I'd be surprised if he wasn't.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if he wasn't. And to be absolutely honest, I think Atlan he's definitely proven himself to be above average in the PCS, but can he contest against the big guns when you're talking about the Unifies, kind of the M&Ms, or maybe even the Lil Vs? That has been a bit of a question mark. We have seen sort of that weakness in the bot side in terms of playoffs. So I like that CFO are giving their rookies a spin, seeing if they're ready for the big stages. And in a game like Hurricane Gaming and in a league like PCS where the playoff door is so wide open, that's always something that I encourage teams to do.
Yeah, I think that's massive right now, and it's definitely a confidence booster as CFO managed to get another one on the board. But we're going on a quick break. When we return, Frank Esports look to take on Megabank Beyond Gaming.